You cannot pass, he said. The orc stood still, and a dead silence fell. I am a servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of Anor. You cannot pass. The dark fire will not avail. Flame of Udun, go back to the shadow. You cannot pass. The Balrog made no answer. The fire in it seemed to die, but the darkness grew. It stepped forward slowly on the bridge, and suddenly it drew itself up to a great height, and its wings were spread from wall to wall, but still Gandalf could be seen. Glimmering in the gloom, he seemed small and altogether alone, gray and bent, like a wizened tree before the onset of a storm. Hey, I'm Danny J.
And I'm Joel N.
I'm Trevor D.
And we are...
Keep on Tolkien.
Hell yes, we are.
And we're back today with episode 91. Now, this is part 2 of our Evil Creatures Trilogy. And today we have a very special subject.
Hell yeah, we do. We're talking about Balrogs, you guys.
Balrogs.
The best kind of rog out there.
Yeah, what's the best kind of rog? The Balrog. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, you want to get right into it?
Yeah, let's dive on it. Everyone's going to want to know.
We should probably first define what is a Balrog.
Yeah. Well, Balrogs, they're lesser spirits of the Ainur that followed Melkor in his discord. We got a little excerpt about that from the Valaquenta, which is in the subsection on that is Of the Enemies, read by Joel.
Of the Maiar, many were drawn to Melkor's splendor in the days of his greatness, and remained in that allegiance down into his darkness. And others he corrupted afterwards to his service with lies and treacherous gifts. Dreadful among these spirits were the Valorokar, the scourges of fire that in Middle-earth were called Balrogs, demons of terror.
Heck yeah. Demons of terror. I friggin' love that.
It's a pretty great way to describe a Balrog.
Yeah.
Especially if you are picturing what most people would from the movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, freaking
They're demons.
Of terror.
And they were considered Melkor's most powerful servants.
Oh, yeah.
They're not only crazy good warriors, but they also have some pretty strong magic as well.
Yeah, they are notoriously hard to defeat.
Yeah, almost everyone who's ever stood against them in a single combat has been killed.
Yeah, they can be killed, but you are often killed doing that.
Yeah, you don't go one-on-one with a Balrog.
No, yeah.
Only Gandalf, I think, can make that happen.
Well, we're going to get all to Balrog slaying in this episode, friends, so buckle up.
More than... Okay.
Let's get into some names and titles for Balrogs. There's not a whole lot of them, and they all kind of mean the same thing, but it's fun.
Yeah, they're all pretty cool.
So first off, we got Balrog. That's Sindarin for Demon of Might.
Valorokar, which is Quenya for Demon of Might as well.
You want to try this next one? This is one of the weirdest words I've ever seen.
I was honestly going to wait to see if you would just do it because I'm way too intimidated by this word.
Okay, all right, fine, I'll do it.
Yo, Trev.
Okay, so it's the Gwallarauco.
Sure, you should spell that for the kids at home.
The Nwallarauco. Yeah, I don't know if the G is silent, but it is Gwallarauko. It's a lot of vowels.
Ingwallarauko.
Anyway, that's primitive Elvish, which I'm assuming is like old enough version of Elvish where there were no dialects. It means demon of torment.
And of course, they're just called demons.
Yeah,
well.
A lot in the Fall of Gondolin, they just refer to them as demons.
The demons. Oh, the Fall of Gondolin. We're going to touch on that in this episode.
Oh, yeah, baby.
But first, we must start at the beginning.
And what is the beginning of Maiar, you guys? If there's one thing I want you to take away from this podcast, it is this. That Maiar start at the Ainulindale. Always. That's where we start. Square one. We're not going to get too detailed into it, but here it is according to Balrogs.
Yeah, so like all of the Ainur, the Balrogs, these Maiar, they were first beings created by Ilúvatar. And Ilúvatar first taught them to sing.
Yeah, and this song he taught them was called the Ainulindale, or the Song of the Ainur.
The song contained all that would be Ea, the history, people, and events.
Everything, dude.
Everything. Basically, time.
Mm-hmm. The song contained 3 different musical themes, and Melkor began to create discord during the song, and others joined in.
The Balrogs were among these Maiar spirits that joined in, but presumably not all of these were Balrogs.
Yeah, some were actually drawn to Melkor later on through, slimy ways and stuff like that. So not everybody was on board right away.
The discord introduced by Melkor manifested itself in history as evil.
Yeah.
So the discord of Melkor equals evil.
Exactly.
Yeah, if the song itself are the events of history, then the discord within that song are essentially the evil events within history.
Yeah. So these are very much fallen Maiar, right?
Yes, absolutely.
When the Valar descended down into Ea to create the world called Arda, lesser spirits came with them.
These were called Maiar.
Yes.
And we've talked about them a ton before.
Even so far this episode.
Yeah.
Yes. They come up a lot, these guys. They are helper spirits that serve the Valar, right? We all remember. Here's a little quote from the Valaquenta in the Silmarillion to refresh your memory from Trev.
With the Valar came other spirits whose being also began before the world, of the same order as the Valar, but of less degree. These are the Maiar, the people of the Valar, and their servants and helpers. Their number is not known to the elves, and few have names in any of the tongues of the children of Iluvatar.
Right, so countless Maiar, right? Many Maiar.
I want to say most of them, not named, they're kind of nobodies, but
Yeah.
they're Maiar, so they're not.
Yeah, they're nobodies, yeah. As the world was created, it became clear that Melkor was going to be an issue, right? He was constantly in conflict with the Valar. Every time they do something cool, he'd fuck it up, right? Every single time.
Yeah, and even when the Valar went and created the 2 lamps at the beginning of the springtime of Arda, Melkor became super jealous, and he hated the lamps and all the labors of the Valar.
Yeah.
He gathered the spirits of the Maiar that were sympathetic to his cause, and some were the ones corrupted during the annual Indolay, and some were new recruits.
Yeah, and this is something we really wanted to make clear about the Balrogs that is unique among the servants of Melkor. Most evil creatures are basically slaves to evil. They know nothing else and they were bred for that purpose.
Right, yeah.
But Balrogs, they signed up for this shit.
Voluntary recruits.
These are fanatics, you guys. These are Melkor heads to the 1000th degree. These guys are in it to win it.
Yeah, they chose this.
Yeah.
If Melkor is in a metal band, the Balrogs are the groupies.
Because think about it, not even Sauron signed up to be a Balrog.
Right.
He easily could have just been Balrog number 6,000.
If he had decided to be a Balrog, do you think he'd still have retained his his self, right? Because
His ability to do fair form and stuff like that, you mean?
I suppose. Do you think he still would have tried the deeds that he tried if he had gone the way of Balrog?
Nah, I think he would just fuck shit up as a Balrog.
No,
'cause
no
you said,
planning or plotting
I
still?
don't. I think
seems like
Balrog is a brute force move.
Yeah. Like you said, they're kind of more of his groupies in that
Yeah.
sense.
Okay. I just pictured Sauron as a Balrog. I feel like he'd be quite the badass.
He was certainly a shapeshifter, and he could shapeshift into many different things.
Yeah, I
Oh,
suppose he could just
could
become
he-
a Balrog
could
if he
he?
wanted to. Yeah.
And Balrogs also, I think, could do some shapeshifting of their own, too.
Oh yeah,
to a
I
degree.
think they could change their size and stuff like that. Yeah.
Just grow or shrink at will. That would be great.
Yeah, maybe that's how they get deep into the earth. They get real small and then they get big when they get down there,
That sounds even more terrifying.
Yeah.
Well, we should probably learn a little bit more about them. From the Quenta Silmarillion, that is a hard word for me still, of the beginning of days, read by Danny.
Therefore he gathered to himself spirits out of the halls of Ea that he had perverted into his service. And he deemed himself strong. And seeing now his time, he drew near again to Arda and looked down upon it. And the beauty of the earth in its spring filled him more with hate.
How spiteful.
Yeah.
I love that Tolkien will use the words beauty and hate in the same sentence.
Yeah.
It really paints a dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
I just really enjoy.
Hell yeah, dude.
So it can be surmised that not all of the corrupted Maiar took the form of Balrogs. A good example of this would be Sauron himself.
Yeah, didn't make the Balrog choice.
Exactly. Choice. It was a choice.
Some even suggest that Ungoliant may be one, but we don't we don't think that's true.
We don't personally subscribe to that theory.
No.
It does say in the Silmarillion that Uncalion is not counted among the Maiar, but it still persists in the lore to this day. So
right.
I thought I'd add it.
It definitely makes sense, and I can definitely understand why people would think that. I originally did think that until we came across that explicit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in the regular ass Silmarillion. Like, I don't even think it's like hidden.
I feel like it would be weird for Ungoliant to also be considered a Balrog, considering she's uniquely the one that has the Unlight. You think that she'd share more characteristics, or other Balrogs would have shared characteristics with her?
Well, you could argue that maybe Balrogs do Unlight as well. We'll kind of get to that later as we get into their description. Thank you for bringing that up.
We could argue it, but is it ever suggested?
It's never explicitly said that they use Unlight the way that she does now.
Okay. I guess that's just my point.
Yeah, no, they've never explicitly said that.
Also, it is said that Melkor had spies among the Valar that were his servants, but did not take the form of Balrog. So just another example of corrupted Maiar not necessarily taking the form of a Balrog.
Yeah, the
double
sneaky
agents.
Yeah, double agents, yeah. And yeah, they're not Balrogs. That'd be embarrassing, right? Like if you just didn't notice that someone had become a Balrog all of a sudden. That'd be weird.
It'd be kind of strange.
You seem to be putting off a little more heat these days.
You're always whipping shit all the time. What is wrong with you?
Yeah, all this really to accentuate the voluntary nature of becoming a Balrog.
Exactly. You sign up for it, boy.
You're a fallen angel.
So let's get into their description. Now, this is a little murkier than you'd think, the description of Balrogs. It's actually pretty friggin' vague when it comes to Tolkien descriptions. And this leads to a few debates about Balrogs. We're about to get into one particular famous one in a moment. So part of it was just their basic description. It is agreed by most that Balrogs are larger than elves are men.
Mm-hmm. I think that's pretty clear.
Pretty clear.
There's a couple times when it's explicitly stated that they're like twice as tall or something like that.
Yeah, their exact size is debated still among experts and fans. Some say that it's about twice the height of a man. That's personally what I believe, and that's I believe Tolkien Gateway said that as well. Some say even larger, right? And some artist depictions even have him just slightly taller than Gandalf. Balrog slightly taller than Gandalf. So
yeah, and personally, I think a lot of this has to do with how frequently Tolkien revised his own writings.
Right. Yeah.
And when you're reading it, essentially, like if you're reading one of his earlier writings, I think they're smaller, meant to be at
least. You'd think, yeah,
than they are in later writings. Either way, I think they're almost always larger than a regular person. I always picture them as,
almost
like
always.
You said, I always picture them about twice the height of a regular man.
I think
at
like
least.
12, 13 feet tall, something
maybe
like that.
not quite as big as Durin's Bane in the movies where
No,
Gandalf
that shit was huge.
Like climbing on him, like on fucking Shadow of the Colossus. Like you're just, no.
I feel like it's definitely... I can see the possibility of them being the same size as men and elves, though. Just as like an additional race to the world of Tolkien.
Yeah.
But
sure.
I don't think they... There's not enough other supporting evidence to say that makes more sense than that.
Sure.
So if they are the size of an elven man, there would be one thing that would obviously set them apart, and that is what we call the hearts of fire that Balrogs are said to have.
Pretty distinct.
This gives them a perpetually burning inner fire.
But this fire can be extinguished, and we'll touch on that in a little bit later.
Yeah, it goes out sometimes.
Oh, that's actually fun. Baldur's Gate 3, which is still pretty popular when we're recording this.
Yes, and it will be for a while, I think.
Yeah, great game. But one of the characters you can get in your party named Karlach is like from basically hell, and she has a heart of fire. Is a constantly burning engine, which makes her heat up like a Balrog would.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
You have a Balrog friend.
That's one of the reasons we got Trevor here. Look at that. That's a popular fantasy reference that I wouldn't have gotten. For sure.
I wouldn't have been able to make that reference.
That's really cool.
And who knows, like, that could have been easily inspired from way back from Balrogs. Like.
Could be.
Right. Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to... Tolkien's one of those things, like, it's kind of hard. Remember, like, how I said, like, every exorcism movie ripped off The Exorcist?
Oh, yeah. As time goes on, things are building from things on things on things, yeah.
Like, everything kind of ripped off Lord of the Rings since Lord of the Rings, so... But it's fine. It's cool. Tolkien
was brilliant, obviously. His ideas carry on.
If you're going to rip somebody off, rip off a fucking genius, you know what I mean? So, more about Balrogs. Balrogs, they use either swords or axes. Only really one of them is known to use an axe, but it is explicitly said. And they always carry their notorious whips of flame.
Shh, they're kinky.
Yeah.
Balrogs are also said to be cloaked by shadow and flame, which leads to a frequent debate amongst nerds. Do Balrogs have wings?
This drove me fucking nuts when I was writing this episode, you guys. I had never really delved so far into this argument. And yeah, I feel strongly about this. I'll put it this way.
I know we've debated it a long time ago.
I've been radicalized in my opinion now.
And yeah, now that you have all the information, yeah.
Yes.
Well, most artist depictions show Balrogs with wings, and there are some people that believe that is bullshit.
Me.
Danny. So
let's get into the wings argument.
And just to be clear, I am actually of the camp.
Joel has a fun stance. He's like a third party here. Like
so
third party voter.
Danny's of the opinion that they do not have wings, and a lot of other people are of the opinion that they do have wings, but I am of the opinion that they somewhere in between. They do have wings. It seems pretty clear to me anyways, the way I read it, that they have wings, but they're clearly not functional wings. Because
you cannot use them to fly like a penguin or an ostrich.
Yeah, we never really get any explicit depictions of them actually flying around or doing anything like that.
Okay.
And there are multiple very clear instances of them falling or drowning. So it seems pretty clear that they can't fly.
And was that because of domestication or natural selection?
Vestigial.
Yeah, the vestigial organs. Yeah.
I guess maybe they got. He thought maybe Melkor thought they were cuter when they stayed on the ground, so they stopped flying as much, and then
like chickens.
Then their wings stopped becoming necessary.
Yeah, dude.
Is there any argument to say chickens? Yeah. Is there any argument to say that Balrogs, like dragons, could have been either or?
No, I've never heard that. Wingless or.
I mean, maybe there's variations.
But if we don't know, if we're saying that it's argued whether or not they have the wings, could it be that some do and some don't?
Well, if that is the case, it is never mentioned because I may or may not have, for this entire episode, scanned the entire Legendarium for the word Balrog and read every instance it comes up, and it did not come up whether or not there's variations.
Yeah.
I would very much put my money on that's not the case, but what I found is in the episode, that's what I found for descriptions. So I think it's pretty definitive, but I mean, if you all are out there listening and are yelling about something that I missed, please hit us up, join the Discord, yell at me. Thank you.
Now that we've made our opinions clear, let's get into the arguments for these.
Yes, okay.
Do Balrogs have wings? So let's get into the wings argument. So most people believe this to be the case, that they do have wings, based on the description of the Balrog Durin's Bane and the Fellowship of the Ring. And this is kind of where I get mine too. It's based on the description that some say is hyperbolic and others say is literal. And then Danny just wanted to be very clear here.
So I wanted to define the word hyperbolic. So this is Merriam-Webster telling us what it means. Of, relating to, or marked by language that exaggerates or overstates the truth of or related to or marked by hyperbole. It is stretching the truth to make a point.
There are actually two uses of the word wings. So we're just keep this here. Joel, what's our first one?
So the first use of the word wings. His enemy halted again, facing him, and the shadow about it reached out like two vast wings.
The key word in this sentence is actually the word like, which in the English language usually denotes what is called a simile. And what is a simile, you may ask? A hyperbolic comparison of two things. And what does Merriam-Webster say the definition of a simile is?
A simile is a figure of speech comparing two unlike things that often is introduced by like or as. Example, as in cheek, like roses.
Yeah. So that's the argument. That's the two sides of the argument. One is saying that this word wings is literal. One is saying it's hyperbolic because it's a simile using the word like.
Yeah, it's a comparison, essentially.
Yes. Yeah, so it is unclear here, basically, that if Tolkien is referring to a real shadow, or is referring to shadow that surrounds the Balrog that looks like wings, or literal friggin' wings, right? It's unclear.
And the second time it's used is suddenly it drew itself up to a great height, and its wings were spread from wall to wall.
Right. It does say there its wings were spread from wall to wall. I will not argue that.
But this follows that previous sentence, does it not?
It does.
Yeah.
Not directly, but it is later in the text. Yeah, like half a page later.
As if to reference the hyperbole.
The hyperbole it previously established.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Trevor's picking up what I'm putting down.
I think it's a fair argument. I think that's a fair argument to make.
So let's get into what do wings do, right? Wings fly. So here's the thing.
Usually.
So let's get into the argument that they fucking fly, okay?
Oh, I am definitely.
I don't.
Like I mentioned earlier,
I don't think.
I am not of the.
This
camp
is a
that
bridge too
Balrogs
far.
can fly.
This is a bridge too far for Joel. That
And
they
I think
fly.
if anyone tries to make the argument that they can fly, I think there's just plenty of evidence that they can't.
I agree.
Like,
I would agree.
okay.
So this is also, believe it or not, another case of not knowing whether something is hyperbolic. In Morgoth's Ring, Balrogs are described to be flying, possibly.
Here's an excerpt.
Swiftly they arose, and they passed with winged speed over Hithlum, and they came to Lamoth as a tempest of fire.
So I suppose Tolkien could just be saying that they flew through the air, or he could be using winged speed to describe something very quickly, or that is very fast.
Yeah, some shit that was fast, you know what I mean? Winged speed, wow. That's how fast winged speed is, if you're wondering. It's that fast.
In Appendix A, Durin's folk, they also refer to a Balrog flying.
Thus they roused from sleep a thing of terror that, flying from Thangorodrim, had lain hidden at the foundations of the earth since the coming of the host of the west, a Balrog of Morgoth.
So there we got flying from Thangorodrim, right?
Another description, potentially, of their speed.
Yeah, to me that definitely sounds like speed comparisons.
Right. So you had something that you came up with during review the other day. What were you saying again?
Oh, well, I mean, if they did have wings, and like we were saying, maybe they were not used for flying. So I guess they could have used them to shield themselves from harm since they are on fire and probably very hard skinned. Or to push gusts of scorching hot air.
So you were being a little charitable to the wings argument there.
Sure, maybe they're functional in ways that are not of flying.
Sounded like you're trying to expand on my flightless
Yeah,
birds idea.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
well,
no, you are expanding. Yeah, that's what you're doing. You're
if they are
yeah.
cloaked in shadow, I mean, that also could be something.
That could be what you just brought it up earlier.
The shadow could be the wings, if you will.
Right.
Mm. No, but I thought you were going to bring up, is it a shadow of unlight?
Oh, I suppose, yeah. Like that shroud could be...
The shroud of unlight?
I guess it could be unlight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If
it
was,
did say,
yeah.
like, terror went before them or whatnot.
And stuff like that.
Stuff like that. And then the darkness that spreads around them, like wings.
Mm-hmm. And it actually, the darkness, there's an excerpt later where there's fire and the Balrog comes in front of the fire and blocks out the light from the fire with its wings of darkness.
What a demon. Let's get there.
So let's get into the terrestrial argument, my argument. My argument is that Tolkien is using hyperbole, guys, which we got into earlier. We all know what that is now. All references to flying or wings are hyperbolic or metaphorical, just like we touched on earlier.
So essentially, if Balrogs have wings, the argument is that other things that are hyperbolically described also have to be taken literally, which I get that argument. It makes it kind of silly.
Right. What is the famous example, a famous example of this? Trev, why don't you read it?
Well, think about it. What did Gandalf mean when he said, "Fly, you fools"?
Yeah.
Literally right after describing wings, he says, in the text, he says, "Fly, you fools." Like he's...
Yeah, nobody's making the argument that Gandalf was telling them to take fucking Delta. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're not taking...
They're not flying literally through the air.
They're not flying
Sprout
out
wings.
of Khazad-dûm.
It's fucking metaphorical. It's hyperbolic. Come on. Right? Like, let's grow up. You know what I mean?
Also, something that we brought up a little bit earlier, there's famous cases where Balrogs fall uncontrollably to their deaths.
Yes.
And one of those instances is when Glorfindel slew a Balrog during the fall of Gondolin by taking it with him over a cliff.
Yeah, and we got the excerpt from the Silmarillion of Tuor and the Fall of Gondolin here, read by Trev, a little tiny one.
Many are the songs that have been sung of the duel of Glorfindel with the Balrog upon a pinnacle of rock in that high place, and both fell to ruin in the abyss.
You know,
they fell to death.
Yeah, they fell to their ruin in the abyss. That's what it said.
Yeah.
You know what? One of the worst arguments against this I've ever heard. I didn't have this in the outline, but I meant to tell you this, guys. Some people argue that the wings are damaged in the battle, so they're unable to fly.
That's a stretch if I've ever heard.
Yeah,
one.
that's what I'm saying.
But I
grasping at straws.
That's
right?
really grasping at straws. Because I mean, even in the instance of Durin's Bane with Gandalf, there's no. We know for a fact that Gandalf doesn't do anything.
He doesn't do
damage
anything
his
to the wings to Durin's Bane, and it just fucking falls like a stone.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What the fuck?
Yeah, Durin's Bane falls right when the bridge at Khazad-dûm breaks. Right, falls right down into the abyss. Balrog does not fly its way out.
No.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it would be pretty fucking stupid of Gandalf to try to pull that bridge trick on a creature that is known to have the ability to fly.
Yeah, that wouldn't make any sense.
And Gandalf is not known for being fucking stupid.
Yeah, if you're going to cut off something that can fly's path, you're not going to destroy a bridge.
Right.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Glorfindel also tackling one of them over the edge. Also not known for being fucking stupid. He wouldn't just push something that can fly off the edge of a
Come
cliff.
right back.
Well, he wouldn't dive into it off
Right,
the cliff
right. He
either.
wouldn't sacrifice himself just to push it off the edge if it could fly.
Yeah, what the
What is he going to do? Hang on and stab it while it's trying
Both
to
of
fly?
these guys actually are so fucking smart that these are the only two guys known for being reincarnated. These are those guys.
And they knew that's how they had to take a Balrog on. If it could fly, of course no.
If you figure out the Balrog hack, you get to fucking get an extra life.
There you go.
Oh my god.
Up one if you figure that out.
I'd like to make one last addition to this argument. Yes, I used addition twice.
Yes.
An additional edition?
An additional addition, yes.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I know, right? Math. So in Tolkien's time, when he was writing, what would be one of the best ways to describe speed? I mean, at least compared to modern times. I mean,
right.
Automobiles and planes were, kind of just getting into their stride and like being figured out. But in the context of Middle Earth, you're not going to use something like that as a reference.
Mm-hmm.
And saying something that moving was at the speed of flying, it seems like one of the best ways to describe speed in Middle Earth. Like, you're not going to say they're, like, you brought this up, fast as a speeding bullet to me, Danny.
Right.
I mean, what else goes? The catapults, arrows,
right? Swift as an arrow. Like I'm sure they said that for a while until the gun was invented,
right.
And then they were like, as the musket ball flies or whatever. What the fuck?
So then you got what else to think of? Yeah, eagles in Middle Earth, and they fly, and they're probably one of the fastest creatures around, right?
Yeah, totally.
They gotta be.
I just love that example. Fly, you fools. Did Gandalf tell him, just like, like, I want you to flap your fucking arms and fly the fuck out of Khazad-dûm.
No,
That's
I was
what
saying,
I want
what
you
is he
to
gonna do?
I was saying, fly over here and help me.
You fucking idiots.
You assholes. I cast the flying spell earlier.
Right,
Were none of you paying attention?
Levitate.
So let's get into some named Balrogs. There's only a few of them, so here we go.
So there were probably hundreds, if not thousands, of Balrogs, but only a few have names.
Correct.
Same with dragons.
Yeah, they're just kind of implied in number.
Same with Trevor's moms.
Yeah, there's just an indeterminate amount of moms.
You have so many moms.
I feel like I'm a mom to Trevor sometimes.
I'm without
Okay,
names.
all right. Our first name Balrog.
Yeah, let's get into the first named Balrog.
Lungorthin. Did I say that right?
I believe so.
Or Lungerthin. That sounds terrible.
Lungerthin. Dolph Lungerthin. Yeah. Yeah, this is the very least is known about this Balrog.
I had actually never heard of this Balrog until you told me about it recently.
Yeah, I didn't until the research. I hadn't heard of this. He's only mentioned in the Lay of the Children of Húrin, which is the longest of all the lays.
It's a good one though. People frequently, quote chunks from it.
It's probably my favorite.
Would you say Tolkien really laid that one down?
Yeah. I love getting laid, you know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, God. So many puns.
Well, in this lay, he is named as a lord of the Balrogs.
Oh.
And he bitch slaps Húrin in the face for his disrespect for Melkor.
Shit. We've got a fun excerpt here about this from The Lay of the Children of Húrin, read by Danny.
But Lungorthin, lord of Balrogs, on the mouth smote him, and Morgoth smiled. Nay, fear when thou feelest, when the flames lick thee, and the whistling whips thy white body, and wilting flesh wheel and torture.
Damn, that's kind of metal.
Yeah, pretty sick. So it gets a cool line.
I mean, and Hurin is kind of, in a way, in hell, being smote by a demon.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
100%.
To each their own.
Yeah, maybe he's into it, dude.
He's really
What if that was Turin? What if Hurin was like a kinky pervert and that was like his like 100% fantasy?
Melkor comes in, torture me, daddy.
I'm never gonna tell you where Gondolin is, daddy.
Yeah, don't tempt me with a good time.
Yeah, exactly. Don't threaten me with a good time. All right. Yeah, in earlier versions of this lay, it is actually just an unknown Thane of Morgoth that strikes Hurin on the mouth, not the Balrog we know as Lingorthan.
Okay. I was going to say, I feel like I would have remembered that if Hurin got smacked in the face at some point in the story.
Yeah.
It's just, and he does, I guess, it's just a Thane that does it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's get into the second one. This is the biggest baddie of them all. This is the one we know most about. We're gonna get into him a little bit right here and then get into his deeds in the history section.
Yes, and we're talking, of course, about Gothmog.
Gothmog.
That kind of sounds like it should be a metal band.
Yeah, I think he's the most documented of the Balrogs, right?
Dude, I guarantee you there's a metal band called Gothmog. You want to look it up? Should we pause the recording and look it up? Because I'm almost certain. Should we do it? Okay, we're doing it, guys. We're back, and guess what? It is 100% a fucking metal band named Gothmog.
Yo.
Hell yeah.
There's one album from 2009.
Wow.
And it sounds, yeah, man, it's got the whole like death metal logo, like the font you can't really read.
Oh my god, yeah,
you can
dude.
hardly read.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
And
stereotypical.
Straight
The
up.
names of the song, Raging Spiritual Ecstasy, Death of a Warrior, Art of War, Eternal Hate. You get it.
Yo,
Yeah.
if any of you out here are listening to this and they like Gothmog, hit us up. I want to know if people be listening to Gothmog and if it's good.
That's so cool. I'm going to be looking at that more later.
Yeah, we got to do a whole episode about metal and Tolkien, Trev, me and you. Someday. But yeah.
So Gothmog. Gothmog is the leader of Morgoth's Balrogs during the First Age, second in command to Morgoth, and his mightiest servant.
Yeah, his name is derived from root words meaning dread force.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, and other Quenya names in the etymologies in the Lost Road and other writings. You want to read them, Trev?
Yes. These are cool. We got Kalimbo and Cossamat and Cosmico.
I'm glad he finally landed on Gothmog. I think I like that.
Yeah, I like
that better than those three.
Cosmico seems like my girlfriend's favorite place to go. Costco. That's all I see when
Cosmico.
Yeah, Cosmico.
Let's all go to Cosmico.
Let's
Oh
all
my
go
God.
to Cosmico.
Maybe that's the Mordor Costco.
Yeah. In the character list in the Fall of Gondolin, they name him as a son of Melko and an ogress named Fluithuin.
That is such a weird word.
I've also just never heard of even the old versions of Melko mating with anybody.
Yeah,
That's
let
weird.
alone an ogress.
An ogress.
Are there, in the modern legendarium, are there ogres?
I think this is the first time I've ever actually seen an ogre
reference to
or
an ogre?
ogress.
That was
used.
mine too.
Oh, wait,
so-
hold on. I'm just putting together that this is saying that Melkor fucked an ogre.
Yes.
Yeah, straight up.
It fucked
An
a
ogre named
Shrek chick. Yeah, dude.
Fluithuin.
And named it Fluithuin.
Yeah, named it Fluithuin. Yeah. He was
Strange.
Yeah, he would have dug all the Shrek porn that's out there, I'm sure.
Hey, we did something about that one time.
We did read some Shrek porn
Some
on the
bisexual.
Patreon. Yes, if you want to read, it was Legolas fucking Shrek, wasn't it?
I don't remember that much. but
Yeah, if you want to hear us read that, go donate to the Patreon. It's on there.
That's the good content. That's why you
That's
gotta
the good
pay
shit
for
you
it.
gotta pay for.
the Tolkien gets sexy.
No, mostly I just don't want to put that in the main feed for the most part. Like,
Yeah.
let's get into some notable deeds of Gothmog.
So Gothmog mortally wounded Feanor, famously. Also famously captured Hurin at the Dagor Bragollach.
He killed Fingon at the Battle of Unnumbered Tears and led the assault on Gondolin.
Yeah, and most famously and lastly known for his double KO with Icthelion at the Fall of Gondolin. More on all that bullshit later, though, in the history section.
So next, let's touch on the next of the named Balrogs, and probably the most famous of them, the most well-known, Durin's Bane.
Yeah, Durin's Bane has no other name.
Yeah, and it was named this by the dwarves after this Balrog murdered Durin the Sixth of Khazad-dûm.
That was the last Durin, wasn't it?
Yep.
I just thought of when it says, this has no name. I just thought of that song like, oh, Balrog that has no name. You're like, wind through the corridor. Oh my God. It's so stupid.
That Neil Young.
I have no idea. It's not Neil Young, but I have no idea. Some boomer shit. Let's get into some weapons of the Durin's Bane. What is he known for using?
Of course, the Balrog go-to, the flaming whip.
Mm-hmm.
Durin's Bane also has a giant flaming sword.
Of course.
And I kind of like to imagine, personally, the Balrog's flaming whip is actually just like wraps back around their arm. Like it's always with them.
Yeah.
Or is
kinda
like
cool.
attached to them maybe somehow.
That'd be cool. It's like a really long tendon that they just whip around.
Yeah,
Wouldn't that
a
be
little
gross?
That's a little gross.
Yeah, I know, dude.
Almost a little body
Maybe-
That's some body horror
body
shit.
horror.
Yeah.
Maybe when it heats up the flame, it extends and gets longer.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Balrog's really know how to
Like
turn it on.
like a thermometer. Is there mercury in there?
Mercury
Oh, no.
in the Balrog.
Dude, that's why Balrogs they're full of mercury. They can't have them around anymore.
They're poisonous. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yep.
It could.
Crack that open.
Well, what about Durin's Bane's notable deeds?
Yeah, this is its most noble deed is that it didn't die.
Yeah.
The most noble deed. It survived.
Yeah, it was one of the only of a few Balrogs said to have survived the War of Wrath.
It also fled to the Misty Mountains and went to sleep deep, deep down under the mountains and was awoken from his slumber in 1980 by the Longbeard dwarves while they were mining for mithril.
Dang, he woke up in 1980. What a time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wild movies coming out of that time.
Yeah, wild movies.
When-
Raging Bull came out that year. Oh, it was probably my favorite film from 1980. Way to go, Raging Bull.
Okay, so how long would you say Durin's Bane had been asleep down there?
Well, honestly, in years past, Trevor, I would have just guessed when you asked me something like that. But now, since we're professional podcasters,
Oh my God.
I actually looked this up beforehand, and because I knew you'd ask this question, and it is exactly 5,421 years that fucker has been asleep.
That's like hibernation, basically.
Man, you had some good foresight to look that up.
Yeah, I definitely looked it up before we started recording. That's for sure.
Nice.
To be fair, I mean, I do like my dates and years and time durations.
So after waking up from his 4,421 year nap,
5,421.
thank you for the correction. This is when Durin's Bane drove all of the dwarves out of Khazad-dûm and killed King Nain. This was in 1981.
Yeah, a year later, we woke up and really fucked shit up for a year.
Oh, King Nain?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dude, I found his grave in the Return to Moria game.
Hell yeah.
Whoa, Return to Moria game. That's weird that you bring that up, Trev. Strange.
Yeah.
Have you been playing that game?
Have you been playing it like a lot or something?
I may have even beaten it already.
Oh shit!
Really? Do you think that maybe we could
Talk
get
about
some content about it?
Oh, I don't know. I did stream it for people a while back.
Yeah.
Here, maybe I'll write an episode.
Yeah, our buddy Mark from
Oh.
Australia joined us for watching you play for a day.
Yeah, right when I started, before I got really the chance to do much of anything.
Yeah. Sorry, Mark. It got better.
Yeah, it's cool, Mark. You'll get to learn all about it.
All about it. Maybe one day.
Maybe
We're not
someday.
promising anything, but
Well, the final major event with Durin's Bane, as we all can probably assume, was his confrontation with Gandalf in the year 3019, and
Yes.
his ultimate death at that
yeah.
time.
So did he go back to sleep? He kicked the dwarves out and went back to sleep?
No, I think he lurked in there. I don't think it went to sleep. I think it just
Lurked.
roamed
He
around.
just lurked around
'Cause,
fucking with the orcs or something.
At one point, Gandalf says he heard one of the orcs say the word gnash, I think, which means fire on the lower levels. He's guessing, he said that he thinks some of the lower levels were on fire. So I'm assuming that it just hung out down in the levels that were on fire.
God, he must have been real bored. Durin's Bane?
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess he can make fire. Maybe use a pyro and just light shit on fire down there.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk more about his history. Or is it a he? Does the Balrog have a gender?
On the internet's gender is listed as he.
Interesting.
I don't know if it's ever explicitly. Maybe we'll see in one of our excerpts if it says he at all. I think it usually refers to it as it, though, honestly.
I think Gothmog is referred to as a he.
Yeah, Gothmog, I think is. Yeah, I think he's definitely gendered. Yeah. But
Well, the history-
Durin's Bane could be a lady. Who knows?
Could be.
I suppose if the Maiar could have been, then the Balrogs.
Exactly.
Why are we so hung up on the thing's gender, though? You know, who cares? The world is, who gives a shit? Trevor, the look you're giving me right now.
I mean, you're right.
You're right, but you're just like, you're right, but whatever.
I just was curious.
No, I'm just joking. We assume traditionally that it is male.
See, because my next question was going to be, do
Yeah.
Balrogs procreate? Or can they? Could they?
I wouldn't think so myself, but I don't know.
Could a
don't know.
Maiar? Could Gandalf have kids?
I mean,
Actually,
Maiar have had
yes.
children with the children of Ilvatar. Melian does have a child.
Oh, there you go.
So, but she does take the form of an elf to do it.
Mm-hmm. She takes
So-
the form of one of the children of Ilúvatar
In order to multiply like
breed
them.
with one.
Okay, so
yeah.
they would potentially need to be able to change their shape to a birth-bearing creature.
Yeah, whatever.
Or something that could,
may
yeah.
be. Yeah, weird. We get into the weirdest Tolkieneering on
Yeah.
this show. So fucking weird. Oh my god. So let's get into the history of the Balrogs. This is going to be the meat and potatoes of the episode here, guys. Let's get into the years of the trees, the good old days.
So back in the good old days, Balrogs were among the spirits that joined Melkor in the discord of the Ainulindale. And early in the years of the trees, after the destruction of the lamps, Melkor returned to these halls of Ea to call down even more of the Maiar to his aid.
And these would have been the same Maiar that followed him in discord during the Ainulindale. They all dwelt with Melkor in the fortress of Utumno.
Yeah, Utumno. Which is, by the way, I recently learned there's another word for Utumno, which is Udun, which is what Gandalf refers to the Balrog as.
Flame of Udun.
Flame of Udun.
Okay, I like that connection.
Because there's a valley in Mordor called Udun, but it's actually named after the fortress of Utumno.
That's pretty cool.
Learned that the other day. Blown.
Boom. Well, we do have a nice little quote here from the Quenta Silmarillion of the coming of the elves and the captivity of Melkor. Read here by Joel.
But in the north Melkor built his strength, and he slept not, but watched and labored, and the evil things that he had perverted walked abroad, and the dark and slumbering woods were haunted by monsters and shapes of dread. And in Utumno he gathered his demons about him, those spirits who first adhered to him in the days of his splendor, and became most like him in his corruption. Their hearts were of fire, but they were cloaked in darkness, and terror went before them. They had whips of flame. Balrogs they were named in Middle-earth in later days.
I just realized something. This is what you were talking about earlier, Joel, where they're cloaked in darkness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And terror went before them.
terror went out before them. Yeah,
Yeah,
Sounds,
that's the unlight argument,
sounds
right?
similar to the unlight. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
So the Balrogs fled from Utumno after Melkor's capture at the end of the Battle of Powers, and the host of Valar, the host of the Valar, took Melkor back to Valinor. And the Balrogs during this time posted up in Angband and just kind of awaited the return of their master.
Balrogs to the rescue.
Hell yeah.
But we don't really hear much from the Balrogs for quite a while, actually.
They just kind of hang out.
Yeah, in fact, it's not until they are needed the most by Melkor that they actually come about.
Balrogs to the rescue.
When Ungoliant assailed Melkor in the region of Lamath, he shouted, hella loud.
Real loud.
So loud that the Balrogs down underground in Angband heard that shit, and they raced to the rescue. And they fucked up Ungoliant with their fire whips.
Yeah, she's no match for all of them. She may be enough to take down Melkor, but yeah, and then they just make her fuck off into legend. Like we never heard from her again. Yeah,
The Balrogs are mighty.
yeah,
They
the
are.
Balrogs are crazy.
We got a cool excerpt here from the Quenta Silmarillion of The Flight of the Noldor, read by Trevor.
Far beneath the ruined halls of Angband, in vaults to which the Valar, in the haste of their assault, had not descended, Balrogs lurked there still, awaiting ever the return of their lord. And now swiftly they arose, and passing over Hithlum, they came to Lamath as a tempest of fire. With their whips of flame they smote asunder the webs of Ungoliant, and she quailed and turned to flight, belching black vapors to cover her.
Asshole.
I mean, but it's
Running
like 1v how many Balrogs?
No. It's definitely an unfair battle. She would probably get fucked up with all those Balrogs around.
I mean, evil fights evil, man. That's just evil.
Yeah, exactly. You know what's evil? War. War is evil.
Yeah. What is it good for?
Warrior, who? What is it good for, really? Yeah. Let's talk about some war, guys. Second Battle of Beleriand, right? Everyone remembers this one. It's a favorite, right?
Right.
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 So this is when Balrogs appear again. This is the Dagor Nuan Gileath in Years of the Trees, 1497. The Battle Under Stars.
Yeah, this is the battle when the Noldor returned to Beleriand and were immediately assailed by Melkor's forces before they could even set up camp.
Yeah, but the Noldor at this point were still super juiced on their tree light, and they kicked the shit out of those orcs.
Yeah, they're super juicers.
Yeah, they kicked him so hard that Fëanor chased them damn near back to Angband.
Yeah, all the way to Dor Daedaloth, right?
But then, of course, he was surrounded by Balrogs coming from Angband.
Mm-hmm.
And killed.
Yeah.
Later.
Yeah.
Yeah, so essentially, Fëanor gets caught up in the fiery whips of Gothmog and is mortally wounded. And we've got an excerpt here from the Quintus Silmarillion of The Return of the Noldor, read by Danny.
There, upon the confines of Dor Daedaloth, the land of Morgoth, Fëanor was surrounded, with few friends about him. Long he fought on, and undismayed, though he was wrapped in fire and wounded with many wounds. But at last he was smitten to the ground by Gothmog, lord of Balrogs, whom Icthelion after slew in Gondolin. There he would have perished, had not his sons in that moment come up with force to his aid, and the Balrogs left him and departed to Angband.
So let's take a minute and talk about the time that the Balrogs actually capture Maedhros.
Remember the time? Y'all? Yeah, after the death of Fëanor, Morgoth tries to trick the eldest son of Maedhros because he thinks he'll fall for that kind of shit.
Melkor sent messengers admitting defeat and that they wanted to negotiate some terms of surrender, and they even offered a Silmaril.
Yeah, they're like, we'll give you one of them. Just don't worry. We'll give you one. If
that's not a trap, I don't know what is.
Right. Yeah.
And the sons of Fëanor agree.
Yeah.
So they just sent a shitload of men.
Yeah, they sent a bunch of dudes. Like, Maedhros just goes stacked. And this is against the previously agreed upon terms.
Right, like, we'll show up, just, two of us right here under the moonlight.
Yeah, but neither of them really followed through with the agreement of those terms. They both brought forces.
Yeah, Morgoth only cheated harder, and he included Balrogs in his cheating, so he won, guys.
Pretty hard.
Yeah.
And thus they capture Maedhros and cart him off as a prisoner to Angband.
Yeah, and we got an excerpt read by Joel here from the Quintus Silmarillion of The Return of the Noldor.
But even in the hour of the death of Fëanor, an embassy came to his sons from Morgoth, acknowledging defeat and offering terms, even to the surrender of a Silmaril. Then Maedhros the Tall, the eldest son, persuaded his brothers to feign to treat with Morgoth, and to meet his emissaries at the place appointed, but the Noldor had as little thought of faith as he had. Wherefore each embassy came with greater force than was agreed, but Morgoth sent the more, and there were Balrogs. Maedhros was ambushed, and all of his company were slain, but he himself was taken alive by the command of Morgoth, and brought to Angband.
I just love how it says, and there were Balrogs.
Yeah, I love how it says that. In the audiobook, it's super Martin Shaw. He does this, he's like, and there were Balrogs. Just kind of trails off a little bit, dramatically. And there were Balrogs. And it's just fucking awesome. Yeah, the way he does it. I can't even capture it, you guys. You got to listen to that Silmarillion audiobook.
It's just like that one line lets you know, the key has been turned. It's done for Maedhros and company.
Yep. And there were Balrogs. So let's get into more war. War. Balrogs love war. Next time we see him in action is one of the most terrifying events of all the Legendarium.
The Dagor Bragollach.
Yeah.
The Battle of Sudden Flame.
I love that name. Of all the named battles, that is one of the coolest names.
Yeah, dude. It's my fave.
Plus, just the Tolkien. What is Dagor Bragollach? What language is that?
That is Sindarin.
Sindarin? Okay. Yeah, Sindarin names all the battles that are in Sindarin, they just sound so cool.
Yeah. Dagor Nin Gileath, right?
All of the Dagors.
Yeah, all the Dagors.
So, the Battle of Sudden Flame, this was a crushing defeat for elves and men. And the Balrogs are back in action, as well as Glaurung the Golden for the first time in a while. We've got a quick excerpt here from the Quintus Silmarillion of the Ruin of Beleriand and the Fall of Fingolfin, read by Trevor.
In front of that fire came Glaurung the Golden, father of dragons, in his full might, and in his train were Balrogs, and behind them came the black armies of the orcs in multitudes such as the Noldor had never before seen or imagined.
Whoa.
A lot of orcs. But also Balrogs in his train. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Just all of it together. Terrifying.
All of it, dude. Here's a cool story. After the battle, the northern part of Beleriand is completely fucking controlled by Melkor. Like, it's completely locked down by Melkor and his cronies. But Hithlum, our boys over there with the House of Hador and Fingolfin's people over in Hithlum, apparently even the Balrogs could not capture Hithlum at this juncture, which is so friggin' badass, right? And it says this explicitly in the text here.
Yeah, and we've got an excerpt from that text. This is again from the Silmarillion of the Ruin of Beleriand and the Fall of Fingolfin, read by Danny.
Then Galdor the Tall took the lordship of his father, Hador, and because of the strength and height of the shadowy mountains which withstood the torrents of fire, and by the valor of the elves and men of the north, which neither orc nor Balrog could yet overcome, Hithlum remained unconquered, a threat upon the flank of Morgoth's attack, but Fingolfin was sundered from his kinsmen by a sea of foes.
So, Fingolfin being sundered there, does that basically mean Hithlum didn't really have the leadership, or?
Hithlum is, Fingolfin is, the men of the Hador are
Right.
kind of, in charge over there.
Okay.
Usually would be their allies, but now they're separated.
I see. Okay.
That's what they're saying. Yep. Let's get to when it gets even worse, guys. And it gets worse.
And it gets worse. And this is, of course, we're talking about the 5th Battle of Beleriand, the Nirnaeth Arnoediad, the Battle of Unnumbered Tears. And if the last battle was bad, this one
Even fucking worse.
is even worse.
Go from sudden flame to unnumbered tears.
This one involves treachery of the. We don't really talk about this because it doesn't have anything to do with Balrogs, but the treachery of Ulfang too. Remember?
The treachery of men.
Yeah, fucking sucks. It just really sucks all around.
Yeah.
Asagol gets killed by Glaurung. We talk about that in the last episode, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of death.
Yeah,
So much death you can't even count.
Unnumbered tears, in fact.
Yeah. And this death is also brought about by our friends, the Balrogs.
Oh, yeah.
Presumably led by Gothmog.
Yeah, of course. He's always leading them.
Yeah, who, of course, he plays a huge role in the crushing defeat dealt to the elves and men.
Yeah. And they would never fully recover from this, just fucking ever. They're totally helpless against Melkor from, like, here on out.
Yeah, elves and men are fucked.
They're fucked, yeah.
And I mean, Balrogs with Glaurung. I mean, how do you get more fire than that?
What are the free peoples to do?
Yeah, the last wave of the assault of Morgoth with the Glaurung and Balrogs is just, what are you going to do against that?
No recover. So the Balrogs worked in conjunction with Glaurung in the last wave. That's insane.
Does that mean Glaurung was late to the battle?
Yeah, they hit him for a while. They waited until he was the headliner, dude.
They played the tactical cards.
Yeah, the Glaurung and the Balrogs. We should start a band called Glaurung and the Balrogs.
Oh my god,
that'd be so fucking funny.
Super cool.
Holy shit! Yeah, Glaurung and the Balrogs. They were the headliner for the show. And we actually have an excerpt here from the Quintus Silmarillion of the 5th battle, read by Joel.
But even as the vanguard of Maedhros came upon the orcs, Morgoth loosed his last strength, and Angband was emptied. There came wolves and wolf riders, and there came Balrogs and dragons, and Glaurung, father of dragons.
Yeah, like holy friggin' shit. Like how do you
Holy
withstand?
heck.
So I'll throw out that I had just said it was Balrogs and Glaurung, but this also states and other dragons.
Yes.
So like
And a bunch of other dragons as well.
a bunch. Yeah. You're screwed. That's a bad day.
Yeah. Balrogs led by Gothmog. I almost said Morgoth. I almost fucked it up, Joel.
God damn it.
Balrogs led by Gothmog made an assault upon Fingon and Turgon in the west part of the battle, and he swept the brothers apart and split the allies up.
And Fingon This is where he is ultimately killed by Gothmog.
Yeah.
When his head is cloven with his mighty battle axe.
Yeah. They call it the Black Axe. Like, I don't know why. If it's just big and black.
Maybe it's also shrouded in shadow like he is.
Yeah, maybe. That'd be fucking cool if it had, like, you couldn't even see the edges of it, you know?
I feel like if you picture
Cloud
it,
of
it has to be
nothingness?
like the axe. It's covered in that cloud of nothingness with like bits of like embers and shit coming out.
Oh, shit.
Just like kind of lighting it up from the inside.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, dude.
Well, for a fun excerpt here about this scene, we've got Trevor reading a bit from the Quentis of the Fifth Battle of Beleriand.
Gothmog, Lord of Balrogs, High Captain of Agban, was come, and he drove a dark wedge between the elven hosts surrounding King Fingon and thrusting Turgon and Hurin aside towards the fen of Sarek. Then he turned upon Fingon. That was a grim meeting. At last Fingon stood alone with his guard dead about him, and he fought with Gothmog, until another Balrog came behind and cast a thong of fire about him. Then Gothmog hewed him with his black axe, and a white flame sprang up from the helm of Fingon as it was cloven. Thus fell the High King of the Noldor, and they beat him into the dust. With their maces and his banner, blue and silver, they trod into the mire of his blood.
That's so friggin' brutal, dude. They just beat him into the dust with their maces.
They deleted him.
They deleted him. You're right. That is a good way to put it. What's another time Balrogs have deleted a whole bunch of people?
Oh, this is a fun one.
This is probably, this is probably one of the biggest calamities of the First Age, and it's not one of the major battles even.
No, it's not. We're talking about the fall of Gondolin.
Right.
So Balrogs played a huge role in this, one of the biggest calamities. And after finally discovering the exact location of Gondolin, Melkor essentially went to take the city, and he made a major move in the year 510 of the First Age.
Huge number of Balrogs led by Gothmog assaulted the city with a huge number of dragons, orcs, and other evil creatures. And this could be said to be the Balrogs' finest hour.
This is huge.
Yeah.
Large numbers of them fought, and actually some of them were killed.
You might say huge numbers.
A good handful of them were killed, yeah.
We've got an excerpt here, again from the Quentis of Tuor and the Fall of Gondolin, read by Danny.
At last, in the year when Eärendil was 7 years old, Morgoth was ready, and he loosed upon Gondolin his Balrogs, and his orcs, and his wolves, and with them came dragons of the brood of Glaurung, and they were become now many and terrible.
Needless to say, the fall of Gondolin was a massacre.
Friggin' massacre.
I mean, all these creatures, how could it not be?
Yeah, although Tuor and his family and some survivors made it out alive, most people were just fucking killed, like just absolutely destroyed, just razed.
Most of them.
But it was a hell of a fight, and at least a handful of Balrogs were killed by the defenders.
Yeah, in the Book of Lost Tales Part 2, Christopher quotes his father's Fall of Gondolin, where it says, quote, "Thus 5 fell before Tuor's great axe, Dramborleg, 3 before Ecthelion's sword, and 2 were slain by the warriors of the king's house." So there were some bodies fallen. There were some Balrogs going down here.
So if these were the only ones that were killed, a score is 20, right?
Is it? Is that what and 2 score? So that would be 40?
So 45? Or no, 48 of these. Holy shit. So at least around 50 Balrogs were confirmed killed.
Yeah. 2 score is 40.
Damn.
Yeah.
How you kill 50 Balrogs and still lose is nuts.
What a hard victory to swallow, right? Or a hard defeat to swallow, right?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, once again, the assault is led by Gothmog. And in the earlier versions of the Legendarium, Gothmog, there's a cool scene where he leads the assault on the gates.
Yeah, and this is while he's commanding some iron dragons. Dragons! Yeah, see last week's episode 90 if you want to hear more about dragons.
Yeah, and specifically them iron dragons, right?
Specifically those iron dragons we're talking about. But for now, we've got a quote from the Fall of Gondolin, read by Trevor.
But now Gothmog, Lord of Balrogs, captain of the hosts of Melko, took counsel and gathered all his things of iron that could coil themselves around and above all obstacles before them. Then he bade pile themselves before the northern gate, and behold, their great spires reached even to its threshold, and thrust at the towers and bastions about it. And by reason of exceeding heaviness of their bodies those gates fell, and great was the noise thereof. Yet the most of the walls around them stood firm.
Yeah, so Gothmog and some metal dragons just crushing the gates of Gondolin. That's pretty dramatic.
Yeah, they literally like that part of in like the I didn't even see the movie, but I saw in the trailer in World War Z when they all like pile up on the wall like that.
Yeah, basically.
You know,
yeah.
like that's what it's kind of like, and it just does that, and then the wall just fucking the gate just fucking collapses. Yeah.
But like we mentioned earlier, even with their victory, the Balrogs still suffered pretty heavy losses. And Ecthelion and Tuor especially, they kicked the shit out of some Balrogs. For a good excerpt about this, we'll pull another one from The Fall of Gondolin here, read by Danny.
Of those demons of power, Ecthelion slew 3, for the brightness of his sword cleft the iron of them, and did hurt to their fire, and they writhed. Yet of the leap of that axe Dramberleg, that was swung by the hand of Tuor, were they afraid still more of, for it sang like the rush of eagle's wings in the air, and took death as it fell, and 5 of them went down before it.
Damn, that's crazy. 5 Balrogs.
Yeah, that's fucking wild.
I mean, that is a badass person right there.
Could you imagine like that? Like if they did the Legolas and Gimli, like who kills more? Could you imagine it's just like
Balrogs?
It's like 20 minutes, like fucking 6 hours of fighting, and it's like 1.
Yeah, shit.
What a contest. That would be a very long contest.
Who kills more Balrogs? Yeah. Good luck, buddy.
Well, after Ecthelion slays 3 of the Balrogs, Gothmog decided to take him on, one-on-one.
Yeah, he does.
Ecthelion and Gothmog fought before the Great Fountain, and it was a hell of a fight. But with his last act, Ecthelion is able to finally kill Gothmog. We have an excerpt from The Fall of Gondolin by Joel.
But lo, Ecthelion, whose face was of the pallor of grey steel, and whose shield arm hung limp at his side, strode above him as he fell, and that gnome drove at the demon, yet did not give him his death, getting rather a wound to his sword arm, so that his weapon left his grasp. Then leapt Ecthelion, lord of the fountain, fairest of the Noldoli, full at Gothmog, even as he raised his whip, and his helm that had a spike upon it he drove into that evil breast. He twined his legs about his foeman's thighs, and the Balrog yelled and fell forward. But those 2 dropped into the basin of the king's fountain, which was very deep. There found that creature his bane, and Ecthelion sank, steel-laden, into the depths, and so perished the lord of the fountain, after fiery battle in cool waters.
So friggin' cool. The Fall of Gondolin is so friggin' dope. I love it.
That was just Ecthelion. Ecthelion's pretty fun.
Ecthelion's just the man.
I love that he leaps at the Balrog, like headbutts him with a spike and just like grabs onto his leg.
Yeah,
He's like, yeah, you're going.
It says earlier in the text that his shield arm was wounded.
So his other arm.
He has
wounded
no
here.
arms left.
So that's that explains why he uses his legs. He's just like head and legs. That's all I got left, baby.
Stab, trip. Yep, exactly.
Next, let's talk a little bit about Glorfindel's
Some more heroic
tussle with some Balrogs in the Fall of Gondolin.
Yeah, some heroic shit right here. Glorfindel's so friggin' cool. He was the leader of the House of the Golden Flower.
Yeah, and he played a huge role in the battle.
Yeah, his valor allowed refugees to escape down the way that was prepared by Idril in secret.
Along the way, a Balrog tries to assail them, but Glorfindel sacrifices himself to save everyone.
What a guy.
Yeah, we got an excerpt here from The Fall of Gondolin, which is so friggin' awesome. Read by Trevor.
Then Glorfindel leapt forward upon him, and his golden armor gleamed strangely in the moon, and he hewed at the demon that it leapt again upon a great boulder, and Glorfindel after. Now there was a deadly combat upon that high rock above the folk, and the ardor of Glorfindel drove that Balrog from point to point, and his mail fettered him from its whip and claw. Now had he beaten a heavy swinge upon its iron helm, now hewn off the creature's whip-arm at the elbow. Then sprang the Balrog in the torment of his pain and fear full at Glorfindel, who stabbed like a dart of a snake. He found only a shoulder, and was grappled, and they swayed to a fall upon the crag top. Then Glorfindel's left hand sought a dirk, and this he thrust up that it pierced the Balrog's belly nigh his own face, for that demon was twice his stature, and it shrieked and fell backward from the rock, and falling, clutched Glorfindel's yellow locks beneath his cap, and those twain fell into the abyss.
Could you imagine being pulled to your doom by your beautiful fucking L'Oreal fucking locks of hair? That sucks.
Well, by like a likely flaming hand.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
it wouldn't. So your head is on fire as well.
Oh my
That's what you're
god.
saying.
yeah, basically.
And
Yeah.
imagine if it was all for nothing and that damn thing could fly.
Yeah, exactly. It could have just flew away, right?
Flown away.
Could have just fucking flew away instead of grabbing onto something.
Nope.
It grabbed onto something as it fell. That's evidence it couldn't fly, in
There you
my
go.
opinion.
Yeah,
There you go.
it reached-
Further evidence. Further evidence.
It reached to save itself.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Could've
if
just
it could
fucking
fly, it
flown.
would have just been like, wee.
And remember that guy on the internet? It didn't fuck up the wings. Never said Glorfindel fucked up his wings and then he fell and couldn't fly.
But
Yeah,
he stabbed him in the tummy.
yeah, stabbed him in the shoulder and the tummy. Yep, and cut his whip arm off. That's so fucking badass.
All right, now let's move off of the fall of Gondolin, as fun as it is, and let's move on to the War of Wrath.
Right. So Eärendil, he sailed the Valinor to get the Valar to get off their friggin' asses and help them with Melkor in the year 542.
The hosts of the Valar would ultimately come to the world of Middle-earth to save the free peoples, and they landed in the year 545 of the First Age.
Yeah.
Only 3 years after.
Yeah, it took them 3 years to prepare the host of the Valar.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a lot can happen in 3 years.
Imagine
Especially when you're magic, dude.
Eärendil finally makes it over and is like, hey, we are dying and we desperately need your help. Okay, give us 3 years.
Give us a few years.
It's like we're actually booked 3 years out. You're just gonna have to wait.
Let me check my schedule.
We got shit to do.
That'd be funny if they were like stoners. You know how they are, like they just always keep getting high rather than doing what they're supposed to do.
What we're
Be like,
supposed
"Yo,
to do."
we're gonna amass our forces real quick after this, real quick. You know what I mean, man? Just another ball, and then we'll do it. But anyway, the result of this landing was a 42-year-long war that destroyed all of friggin' Beleriand.
And nearly every Balrog is slain.
Oh wow.
It's
Yeah.
said that just only several of them escaped the destruction of Beleriand and fled.
They escaped justice. The exact number is not known, but after Lord of the Rings was published, Tolkien wrote that there were between 3 and 7 Balrogs.
Just throughout Middle-earth at that time?
He said just ever, but this was before the Silmarillion would have ever thought to being published.
Gotcha.
So he kind of like changed it at the last minute and then never really retconned it before he died.
So he intended for there to be few, but realistically, we have to assume there were many.
In the Lord of the Rings, he intended there to be few, but the Silmarillion, he intended there to be very many.
Yeah, and so this gets into the inconsistencies of earlier writings versus later writings, as we see here,
Right.
like in later writings. There are much fewer of them, only 3 to 7 ever to exist, and they definitely seem like they're meant to be bigger, too.
Yeah.
But-
At least it follows chronologically. Like it still makes sense.
It still makes sense timeline-wise, yeah. Yep.
One of these surviving few we talked about a little bit earlier, Durin's Bane.
Durin's Bane.
But we talked about it earlier, and we'll talk about it later too. We'll just get back to it.
I'll talk about him in a second here, but we've got an excerpt real quick from the Quenta Silmarillion of the Voyage of Eärendil and the War of Wrath, read by Danny.
The Balrogs were destroyed, save some few that fled and hid themselves in caverns inaccessible at the roots of the earth.
So they just went and hid underground. They didn't even go to a faraway land and live things out. They're just hiding,
Yeah,
permanently hiding.
just hiding.
Would they have been down so deep where the creatures before time even existed? You think?
I don't know.
Maybe,
You guys
dude.
know what I'm talking
The strange
about.
Yeah,
things
the
that
ones that
gnaw
Gandalf-
and under the earth or something like that.
Yeah.
They're around there.
I wonder if maybe that's what the Balrog was actually that's what Durin's Bane was doing. He was actually just having a party with the unnamed
With
beasts.
those the earthworms from the Hobbit movies.
Yeah, sure.
Oh yeah. So Balrogs for the Second Age, in the first part of the Third Age, they just disappear. They mind their own business wherever the fuck they are. All the way through the Second Age, nothing. first part of the Third Age, nothing. But it wasn't until Durin's Bane awoke that we get more Balrog action. Yeah.
Yeah, essentially after the end of the First Age, Durin's Bane is the only Balrog action we get.
Yep.
So the dwarves of Khazad-dûm, as we know, they were following a particularly deep deposit of mithril when they awoke that sleeping Balrog in 1980. And the Balrog just wreaks havoc on the kingdom, and like we mentioned earlier, both Durin the Sixth is killed as well as King Nain.
Yeah, and after this, the dwarves are completely forced to abandon their home.
Which seems to happen frequently to them.
Yeah, unfortunately. Especially the Longbeards, it would seem.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, after their exit, the orcs begin to re-enter Khazad-dûm, and they coexist with the Balrog, although it's very clear that they are quite afraid of it, and they just kind of leave it alone to do its own thing.
Yeah. They don't fuck with it.
They cohabitate, but they don't get in each other's way.
Yeah.
The Fellowship of the Ring encounter the same Balrog in January of Third Age 3019. So, yeah, Balrog forces the dwarves out, takes another nap, or chills. Well, I say chills, but you get it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you can't really chill, you know what I mean?
Flaming
Yeah.
hearts of flame, you know?
Yeah.
and here's some evidence from it, about it, from the Fellowship of the Ring, the Bridge of Khazad-dûm, in an excerpt read by Joel.
It came to the edge of the fire, and the light faded as if a cloud had bent over it. Then, with a rush, it leapt across the fissure. The flames roared up to greet it and wreathed about it, and a black smoke swirled in the air. Its streaming mane kindled and blazed behind it. In its right hand was a blade like a stabbing tongue of fire. In its left it held a whip of many thongs. "Aye, aye," wailed Legolas. "A Balrog! A Balrog is come!" Gimli stared with wide eyes. "Durin's Bane!" he cried. Letting his axe fall, he covered his face.
Dude, for something to make Gimli drop his axe,
Yeah.
like, you know that's horror. Like that.
Well,
Yeah.
because like they had heard of Durin's Bane, like they knew something in there had killed all those dwarves, but they didn't know it was a goddamn Balrog until just now, right?
Oh, so that was a gross realization for him.
Yeah. Because in the I think did I leave this excerpt in here? Yeah, no, I cut it out. But Gandalf says, "Oh, I get it." He says, "I understand." When he goes, "Oh, a Balrog, I understand." Like now, putting all the dots together, Durin's Bane was a Balrog. They must have woke it up. You know, not cool shit.
All the pieces fit into place.
Yeah,
Well, speaking of Gandalf, he fights Durin's Bane. We know that.
sure does.
Makes in fact, Gandalf the Grey's last stand is against the Balrog on the Bridge of Khazad-dûm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Gandalf breaks the bridge, and the two of them fall into the abyss. And we've got a excerpt here from the Fellowship of the Ring, Bridge of Khazad-dûm, one of the greatest chapters ever friggin' written. Trev's going to read it for us.
From the shadow, a red sword leaped flaming. Glamdring glittered in answer. There was a ringing clash and a stab of white fire. The Balrog fell back, and its sword flew up in molten fragments. The wizard swayed on the bridge, stepped back a pace, and then stood still. "You cannot pass," he said. With a bound, the Balrog leaped full upon the bridge. Its whip whirled and hissed.
Yep, and then they down into the abyss, right?
Yeah, and then he used his wings to save himself, and he
Yeah,
flew
and
away.
they flew away. Flew all the way back to Autumno or whatever the fuck. Yeah.
Udun!
Yeah.
Udun.
But it doesn't end there, right? That's the surface. This is like the iceberg here of this fight. That's the tip of the iceberg. We see Gandalf facing off against the Balrog up on the Bridge of Khazad-dûm. Tip of the iceberg. The real fight is after the fall, right?
It's nuts to me. When I first saw the movie, like my first exposure, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they have that whole battle, like it doesn't, I think, do it enough
the
justice.
flashback, yeah.
It doesn't, like, because it's a long fight,
Yeah.
right?
It's badass.
It's like to the bone. It's. I mean, they both die.
Yeah, they both die. It's like days long, right? It's crazy.
You 1v1 a Balrog, you die.
Yeah,
Like
straight up.
maybe it also dies, but it's.
But you're not in good shape afterwards. No.
Yeah, they do flash back to that battle twice. They do the beginning of Two Towers,
Right.
and then when they meet Gandalf again, he kind of retells the last part of the battle.
Yep.
So they extend it out a little bit. And I always thought that was really badass, those scenes, but yeah, it's still nowhere close to how long this battle actually was.
Mm-hmm.
So both Gandalf and the Balrog survive the fall, and the Balrog's flames are quenched when they fall into some deep water under the mountains, and it becomes sort of like this slimy, gross snake eel thing. And its flame eventually does regenerate when they get out of the water later, but it's just kind of gross.
Yeah, apparently they were actually going to do this scene in the movie, the slimy Balrog, after the water scene.
That would be so cool.
Which is why it cuts right when they hit the water. They were going to have a whole sequence after that, but they like ran out of time or money. I can't remember.
Shit. It was very dramatic, the way that they just cut it as they hit the water.
I wish we could have saw slimy extinguished Balrog.
That'd be cool.
And then it bursts into flames at the Tower of Durin.
I wonder, do you think, because I mean, this douses the Balrog when it falls into the water.
Mm-hmm.
And like on last episode, we talked about the dragons creating steam from the water, right? So like, could a Balrog also do that?
Oh, I bet that
don't
shit
know.
created a bunch of steam when he fell in the water.
I mean, definitely, I'm sure, like, when they got out of the water, and I'm just picturing, you just see, like, the steam, like, it's slimy, and then it starts steaming, and then just reignites. Like, that
dude.
That'd be so cool.
That'd be sick to see. Yeah, they should have done that.
Gandalf then pursues the monster through the deep tunnels beneath Khazad-dûm to the endless stair, and then they fight all the way up to Durin's tower at the peak of Xeric's Eagle.
Yeah.
And that's where that's where the end of the battle took place.
Mm-hmm.
Gandalf defeats the Balrog, casts its carcass down to the mountainside before succumbing himself to his own wounds. And we have an excerpt from The Two Towers, The White Rider, read by Danny.
Out he sprang, even as I came behind. He burst into new flame. There was none to see, or perhaps in after ages songs would still be sung of the Battle of the Peak. Suddenly Gandalf laughed. But what would they say in song? Those that looked up from afar thought that the mountain was crowned with storm. Thunder they heard, and lightning, they said, smote upon Celebdil, and leapt back, broken into tongues of fire. Is not that enough? A great smoke rose about us, vapor and steam. Ice fell like rain. I threw down my enemy, and he fell from that high place and broke the mountainside where he smote it in his ruin.
How strong would Gandalf need to be to hold up a weapon to a Balrog and not just be pushed? Like,
right.
That is, yeah.
He shatters its sword. That doesn't happen in the movie, does it?
No.
The sword doesn't shatter? Why didn't they do that? That would have been awesome.
Yeah, that would have been really cool, because doesn't it shatter into like molten shards?
Yeah,
or
molten
something?
fragments, yeah.
Molten fragments.
That would have been
shit.
dramatic as fuck.
And then it's just Gandalf contending with the whip, dude.
Although, I mean, the movie did do pretty badass when he like puts his sword up and it gets struck by lightning,
That
and
is
then he
pretty
like
cool.
stabs him with the lightning sword.
It
Like,
is
that
pretty
was,
cute.
That was pretty fucking
yeah,
cool.
it is. It is. So that's Durin's Bane is Gandalf's battle with Durin's Bane is the last bit of Balrog action we ever get in the Legendarium. But we're hoping for more here at KOT. Maybe more, maybe a little more. We know
It is stated, yeah, there are other Balrogs.
Yeah, there's 3 to 7 of them, or I suppose
3 to 6.
3 to 6 of them.
Instead of 37, 2 to 6 now.
Yeah, 2 to 6 of them. And yeah, they're hiding, waiting for the return of Melkor. So maybe these Balrogs will come back for that Dagorrath, the last battle.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like any and all of the dark servants that are still alive will probably come back
Hearken
for
to
that.
the call.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
With Melkor,
The
their
final
only
battle.
master.
yeah. But ultimately, who knows, guys? It's up to speculation.
Tolkien mystery.
Tolkien mystery. But that's all we have for content-wise. Some final thoughts, though. Balrogs are badass.
Yeah, they are easily one of the most powerful servants of Melkor.
Yeah,
I'd even argue, I kind of like Balrogs better than dragons.
I do too. After having written, I loved Joel's episode about dragons, and I learned a shitload about the dragons. But after having done all this Balrog research, I'm kind of like
Partial to Balrogs.
partial to Balrogs.
What if I
now.
told you I was partial to orcs over both Balrogs?
Because you've
and
written the
Drak-
orcs episode?
No, that'd be kind of
Yeah, that'd be silly.
I'm just being silly.
That'd be
Personally,
fun.
I think if I had to choose one or the other, I'd probably still go with dragons. I think dragons
Yeah.
are pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, classic choice. You know what
Dragons
I mean?
have like the intelligent evil,
That's true.
and Balrogs are kind of the ruthless evil.
But they also have the sorcery to them. And the movie downplays the sorcery a lot.
Balrogs have much more sorcery, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they could throw fireballs or whatever the fuck they
I mean,
want.
yeah,
they
they're,
want.
they're
Yeah.
straight up demons. Like,
Oh yeah, dude. They're straight up friggin' demons.
Well, and because they were Maiar, right? They
they have the powers of the Ainur, yeah.
and the lots of like a very strong Fea, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Lots of energy to expend.
Mm-hmm.
but they had a huge role to play in the events of the First Age.
Yeah.
And it was interesting the amount of debate and speculation that surrounds Balrogs, largely the wings and just their general size and appearance.
Number as well.
Number
right?
of them, yeah.
And we also really thought it was interesting how they're one of the only one of Melkor's servants that are actually signing up to do this.
Volunteers.
The only ones to actually voluntarily do it. They weren't manipulated or twisted or bred for this.
Yeah.
They're just like, yeah, we'll do it.
We're like, sounds good, buddy. Yeah.
We'll follow Glaurung into battle. Hell yeah.
Yeah, you want us to ride your dragon thing into battle? Fuck yeah.
Shit,
I'll do
hell
that.
Yeah.
They're just yes men, dude.
your word, your command.
Yeah.
I'll do it, man. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, that's all we've got for you today for episode 91. Don't forget to tune in next week for episode 92, the final installment in our Evil Creatures Trilogy, where we will be talking about the race of orcs.
Orcs. Orc.
Oh my
I
god.
don't know.
They
where
don't make
came,
that
I don't know
sound,
where
yeah,
that came from.
I don't think they make that
Orcs,
sound.
arguably one of the also. Well, I don't know, man. I mean, they're pretty evil, and I want to argue they're one of the evilest creatures to exist. But it's kind of hard to debate that.
Yeah,
Oh, well, don't worry.
we're covering this evil so much. You know what I mean? It's just evil all over the fucking place.
We'll break it down for you next week, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Thanks for listening to KOT Podcast. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast. Stay up to date on new episodes. That'd be cool. And also rate us or give us a nice review on whatever platform you're using. That'd be nice. Thank you.
A big thank you to our patrons. Don't forget to subscribe on Patreon for some exclusive content. Our patrons, their support is so important to us. You can go check out our Patreon at patreon.com/KOT podcast. We also do private one-time donations if that's more your speed. We have PayPal and other services, so just contact us on your preferred social media, and we'll make it happen. We appreciate you.
Speaking of our social medias, definitely get in touch with us on our Discord channel. We'll have a link in the description. We also post some stuff to TikTok at keep_on_Tolkien_podcast. We're on X, formerly Twitter, at KOT Podcast. We have a Facebook page at official Keep On Tolkien. We also have an Instagram, believe it or not, at Keep On Tolkien Podcast. And lastly, we also have a merch store with some pretty cool stuff on there. We use T-mail, so that would be keep-on-tolkien-podcast.tmail.com.
Damn, you nailed that, Trevor. Way to go. You should
Every
be
time.
You should be a salesman or something. You're the next Billy Mays. You
should
know
be
that?
the people. You should be the people who talk in drug commercials at the end when they talk really fast. And
Yeah.
It cause death.
This can cause death, urination of piss, and
cancer.
yeah, it's like okay. Well, anyway, y'all, I'm Danny J.
And I'm Joel N.
I am Trevor D.
We are.
Keep on Tolkien.
Howley and Huluba.
Arian Tulima.
All right, Tulip, y'all.